Hi, and welcome to the studio. I'm Tina Thaw, and this is a DIY gelatin plate tutorial. For this project, you're going to need some gelatin, vegetable glycerin, rubbing alcohol, measuring cups, paper toweling, a glass measuring cup, and a fork and spoon for mixing. Before we start mixing up our gelatin and making our gelatin plate, I wanted to take a moment and talk about the container in which you use. You can use anything. The only thing that you have to remember is that the bottom of it needs to have a completely smooth surface. What do I mean by that? For instance, repurposing a packaging plastic piece is completely and totally smooth, right? No question there. However, before I use this, I would want to clean up all this paper off the edges. So we'll set that aside, but that's a great example. And I actually am thinking of using that for some bookmarks. So here's another one that I found at just my local Walmart. What I liked about this container is that it has a lid, and it's actually deep enough for an 1.5 to 3/4 of an inch plate. That's what we're aiming for. So what's great about this, again, as I mentioned, is the lid so that I can protect my jelly plate when it's not in use. The one thing about this that I'm not sure about, it's going to be a test for me, is that this circle right here has a little bit, I'm going to be quiet and see if you can hear this, a little bit of a raised surface right around that circle. One option is I could have probably sand this off and maybe sand the entire thing so we don't have just a sanded part here, but that would leave some markings on the surface of our jelly plate. So what I'm going to try to do is leave it as is and just see if perhaps when I'm using the plate, I can use that as a masking area for maybe some words or other elements that I want to add in, so not to be so concerned about the surface of the plate. But this is a trial run on that. But again, I could have sanded the entire bottom, and it more than likely would have left that kind of scratchy textural surface onto the plate, which may or may not be desirable for your purposes. Just wanted to point that out. All right, next step is, as the recipe calls for, based on 1 cup of liquid, and how you find out how much liquid your container holds is to simply fill it with water, pour it off, and measure and see what you have. This particular one is exactly a cup, which is perfect for this. So next step is we need to start mixing our gelatin. Now, this is different than how you typically would mix gelatin because we think about it using hot water when you think about making Jell-O at home. The difference in this is because we're adding rubbing alcohol, heat may not be the best thing. So we're going to play it safe, and we're going to use cold water, and then we're going to take that and put it into the microwave. So hold there, and we'll just get this started. And here's the recipe we're using. So you only need 3 packets for 1 cup of liquid. So we're ready to get this rocking. We're just going to add our gelatin here. 1. 2. And 3. And now we will set those packets aside in the trash. And I'm just going to use my fork here to spread this around on the bottom, just so that as I pour it in, what we need to add to this is 1 half cup of cold water, which I've already measured, half cup, and we're pouring in. Okay, and we're just going to stir that a little bit just to get that gelatin down in that cold water. And I'm going to take this over to my microwave. I'm not taking you with me, but I'm going to take this to my microwave, and I'm just going to heat this for about a minute to just help make this more liquid and remove any remaining lumps before I add the rest of the ingredients. So I shall return. And here it is, right out of the microwave. You can see it's quite foamy, which is not a problem. It'll die down, but it doesn't look like there's any additional lumps in there at this point. So let's go ahead and measure real quick while it's hot the remainder of our ingredients. Let's start with our 1/4 cup of vegetable glycerin. So we're just going to do that right here. Vegetable glycerin can be found at health food stores. It can be found in the pharmacy. You can find if you have an area that has skincare supplies, online, Amazon. It's not that hard to find. And I also use vegetable glycerin when I use watercolors, so I have it on hand already. So we're going to add this and stir. Just going to reach this, and we're going to, ooh, full bottle, out of control. Making a mess, it's okay. And the alcohol. And then we want to just stir. You just look, you might need to microwave this for another 30 seconds or so, but mine's looking really good actually. It's all dissolved. Just keep stirring. You're looking to make sure it's all dissolved. And then it's simply pour into your chosen container, which I'm going with this one today. So we'll just lift this up out of the way, and we're just going to pour that on in. There we have it. Now, what's really important here is that we take a little bit of a paper toweling, or even your finger, but don't know if you can see on camera here, we have some foaming happening here and bubbles. You could use your hand, your fingers. I'm just going to use a corner of a paper toweling to kind of drag down to the end to try to release those bubbles. And I'll do it one more time, drag and release those bubbles. And that looks pretty good. What you're looking for, I've got my head down around it, checking for any bubbles, any clumps, any foam, anything that might impact this surface. Now, granted, you have the bottom, but what I like about ensuring that this top layer is nicely done, I'm just going to throw this away, is that you can flip it and use both sides of the jelly plate. So that's it. That's all there is to it. Now you're going to just let this sit for 4 to 8 hours. I prefer to do it overnight before removing this from the mold, and we'll come back tomorrow and I'll show you what this looks like. And I may finesse this a little bit more because I do have to move it off my workstation into another location, so I may have to finesse this surface a little further. All right, next up, I want to show you what happens to a jelly plate that you make yourself at home. As you can see here inside this container, we have shrinkage. Sometimes that's not a problem because actually I'm enjoying this size. I just used this not too terribly long ago, and I actually like this size. However, it could need, some more. It could use some help. I don't mind the size. However, sometimes you'll find that maybe your plate might get a gouge in it. It might get cut. It might get dirty and nasty. And I want to just show you how we can take this plate, add the missing material, which is only going to be our rubbing alcohol and cold water, because we know that the gelatin and the vegetable glycerin will not evaporate. So this is what's evaporated. So I remember, because I wrote it down, that this container holds 4 cups of water. So what we'll do is we'll cut this down. I'm going to put it inside this container, microwave it again, so it becomes liquid. I'll then measure how much liquid I have presently, and we'll figure out what I need to add to make this a fresh, brand new jelly plate. But while we're here, I'm going to remove this, get it ready for some cutting. And I use these clear acetate sheets just to set it on to when I'm using it, so it just keeps it safe, and then I use it as a lid. So, and it's as simple as it sounds. With just a pair of scissors, we're going to grab this jelly plate. I do, stuck it down too close to us here, and we're going to just simply cut it. Don't fret, we can melt this and make some beauties again. All right, we have it all cut, and now off to the microwave. I'll be back. All right, we've melted down, and yes, we have shrank by about half of our volume. So I'm just going to add in, I've got some hot water here. So let's add 2, 4, 6, And then let's add the alcohol that may have evaporated. And I'm just going 4, 6, 8, 9. And now let's blend that together. And you may need to put this back again into the microwave to incorporate it. I had very hot water, so it should incorporate pretty easily together here. Keep stirring. You could strain this if you find, like I see here, cat hair. You could strain it to make sure you get all that out. Through a cheesecloth if you wanted. It's totally up to you how particular you want to be about your jelly plate. Looking pretty good. Now I'm eyeballing this, so I'm just going to eyeball a little bit more rubbing alcohol. We don't want this thing to mold. That's why we use the alcohol. It will evaporate more quickly. I can see some bits of paint that was maybe stuck onto my old jelly plate. You know, again, you could strain that if that bothers you. For me and my purposes today, nope. As things get layered, you may not even see it. And just a smidge more water to bring it to the top. And then, as we continue to stir that in, I think that's going to work good for us. All right, now what we're going to do is grab that mold and we'll pour it in. Alrighty, so now we're going to pour our now refreshed gelatin plate material into our original mold. We will again do the same. We're going to use either our finger or paper toweling to help remove these bubbles or any surface blemishes that might be visible to the naked eye at this point. And I'm just getting all that I can. I should have brought in a rubber spatula. Do as I say, not as I do. We'll just put that over there and fold that to about there. So I just do it, you know, about the width, and then I'm just going to drag from one end to the next in an effort to get a really, really smooth surface. Again, we have that really smooth bottom, but if we have an additional surface we could use, that would be awesome too. And I'm just going to drag a smaller bit here, what I can. Let's make sure we're still in the camera where you can see that, and we are. Okay, let's just come in. Those little bubbles and foam, you can see it went collect here in the corner. Bubbles. Again, I don't think I've mentioned, but this combination of ingredients creates almost a plastic-like material, even though it's not, because you can see we can melt it back, but it is like a plasticizer, which is what allows us to be able to do what we can do with this jelly plate without all the real chemicals to make it that, which is why I like making my own. Not only that, but we save packaging and the impact on the environment from all the shipping that'll be required, manufacturing, etc., etc. But you do you. If you like to purchase pre-made things, go for it. Just finessing. I've learned with this big one that if I don't really finesse this edge or this corner, it'll not be something I can conceal as easily if it's a smaller plate like the one I made first. Alrighty. Sure my head's getting in there. You get the idea. I'm going to keep finessing this and then let it set overnight. And we will do the unveiling tomorrow when both plates are ready to come out of their container. Again, just a reminder, we're aiming to get a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thickness. And I know that from using this container in the past. And we're just making sure we can get as much of the imperfections we can off the surface as it sets up. So stay tuned. Here we are the next morning. And let's take a look at what we have. When I moved this plate over into its holding area yesterday, the gelatin jiggled a little bit and touched on this acetate sheet a little bit. I didn't worry about it because, hey, we know we can always cut this up and refresh it again, just like we did. Here we go. Step 1, and I figured this larger one would be a great one to demonstrate. How do we get it out of the mold, right? It's gelatin. We know it sticks like Jell-O. And there you can see, I hope, let me take a peek into the camera. You can see a little bit of the thickness there, which that's ample. So what I'm going to do is ever so gently is try to pull with my fingers this plate away from the edge. I hope you can see that there. I'm just pulling it away from the edge of my mold. And I'm going to do that around all 4 corners, or 4 sides rather. Whoops, and I just tore it right there, just a little bit. You want to be real careful. And remember, we have 2 sides to this plate. So if one side gets marred in this process, no big deal. So again, all the way around. I have in the past needed to use a butter knife or some sort of tool to help me release this, but we're going to see it. This one's coming up pretty good. Again, this is the refreshed plate that I demonstrated yesterday, but it looks like it's all coming up. So I can grab a corner right there and let's just remove. Now I want to have my plastic sheet or whatever you're going to use for it to set upon. Have that ready. Voila! We have our jelly plate. Now you can see in this one, I hope on camera, little bits and pieces. I didn't filter it. I don't really care that much. It's all a look. So I'm just going to set this one, boop, try to set it down on that sheet of acetate. And just to show you, it's ready to go. I've just put it on the sheet of acetate so I can use it and slap that to the side. This, when I'm finished pressing with my plate, I will then replace this back in here. No biggie. All right, let's see how our other mold did for us. This is the one that I purchased from Walmart with a lid, and I did put the lid on during its setting time because, heck, we do that when we do Jell-O, right? So, same process. We're just going to pull from the corners a little bit. Trying to just get some air pockets in there. And we might be able to turn this up pretty easily. And this is a new mold to me, so I'm just going to try if I put the lid on it and have it fall inside that lid. Let's see if that will work. Just going to help finesse it a little bit, because if I can get some air in there. And sure enough, it's going to lift out for me. But now let's see. I would probably use this just like that when I'm printing. So then I can put my paint, use my brayer, roll it out, print. Now, the only thing I want to say is after you have done some mono printing with your jelly plate with some acrylic, what you want to do to clean that is after you put your papers down and release and clean up all that you can. You just want to take a baby wipe because there'll still be some residue. So you just clean this up real good. It really isn't going to matter that much because honestly, when I have been in a hurry and I didn't clean off my jelly plate before putting it away, when I came back for the next session, put my paint, brayered it across, put my paper down and it lifted everything clean. It's the interesting thing of the texture of these. They're obviously like, let's see, like those Jell-O shots. Those, not Jell-O shots. Tell what my mind is today already. No, it's more firm Jell-O things that you can make for kids. I've been so long without young ones, I really am at a loss for words. But it has that kind of texture to it. Very malleable, pretty indestructible. And if it does, like this one will tear as I was taking it out, I could cut this and just use the plate there. I could cut this down to size. Anyway, I'm rambling as Tina can. But here you go, a little DIY gelatin plate. Fun in the studio, saves the environment a little bit, saves your pocket a little bit of money, and we're ready to go. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.